Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're going to be talking about the Pages of History event, which is going on in December. Now I was actually going to couple this video with some data mines, but I decided not to because, well, I went on a little bit of a chat about the Pages of History and the profile pictures that you get, mainly talking about why you don't really get any of the Axis profile pictures. The closest we got was the last one, which of course did fight for the Germans for a little bit, but wasn't mentioned in the article. So that's why this video is just about the Pages of History. It's talking about the profile pictures themselves, and I've seen a lot of, not really backlash, but people being like, well, why is X person not involved? Or why don't they do German profile pictures? Well, or why don't they do Italian profile pictures? Well, I go into it in the little section later on. So make sure to check that out, and if you have any additional questions, just come on to the Twitch stream and I'll answer them for you as we go through. Anyway, as always, if you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe to the channel and also like the video. The profile picture for this Page of History, remember, if you complete all the tasks for the Page of History, you get this profile picture, or you can just buy it, is Gregory Boyington, who is also known as Pappy. Now, Pappy Boyington is a very famous US pilot. He basically fought in World War II against Japan in the US volunteer group, the Flying Tigers, where he was a flight leader. He ended up becoming a colonel at the end of it all, and also he joined the US Marine Corps, where he was nicknamed Pappy on account of his age. He was 30 at the time. In 2 years, Boyington downed 26 enemy planes, but he was shot down by Zeros in early 1944 and spent the rest of the war in captivity before the Japanese surrender, when he was released afterwards. So this guy is incredibly famous when it comes to America. He was awarded the Medal of Honor, the Navy Cross, and also the Purple Heart because of his injuries. So definitely a person who is very famous when it comes to American aviation and has a really, really cool story. So definitely should look him up. Looking at the Pages of History little events, the fact is they're all based around World War II stuff, so there'll be mid-tier things, mainly Germany, Italy, the USSR, America, Britain, you know, maybe a bit of Japan. You got the Bernhard Line, which of course was in central Italy, so that was in 1943. So you'll have the Allied forces versus the Germans probably there, because of the Italians not necessarily being there. You also have the Battle of Moscow, which is going to be between the German army and also the USSR in 1941. Operation Compass in 1940. This was the Italian army versus the British mainly, but they might have some other little forces in there too, which will be quite cool. Operation Winter Storm in 1942. Obviously, this was an attempt to free General Paulus, which was encircled in Stalingrad. Didn't work very well though, which generally meant that Stalingrad was lost, and obviously the army there was annihilated. The Ardennes Offensive is 16th to the 19th of December. This was the last big German counter-offensive in the Second World War. It happened in 1944, so you'll see a lot of the big hitters from rank 3 and rank 4 for Germany there. Also, the first combat mission of the Flying Tigers from the 19th to the 22nd of December. This one might be pretty cool, but also the Flying Tigers have pretty limited amounts of planes that they could use, so it's going to be interesting to see what they actually pick here to be able to push forward. Then also you have a Zitomir Berdachev operation, which is about the place. This was from 1943. So this was between, of course, the USSR and the Axis forces at the time. And the last one is Operation Nordwind, which, of course, was the last major offensive by the Wehrmacht in the Western Front on the 31st of December 1944. Basically, the Ardennes offensive was on the brink of a collapse, so the German command attempted to destroy a weakened American army in Alsace. After a long and bloody battle, the American forces withdrew, but soon managed to stop the Germans' advance. The operation overall was a failure, which is incredibly true. So overall, not too hard stuff, nothing which is like more modern, so hopefully everyone has access to these. I will say one of the things that's very important now that they do these pages of history events, and you can get boosters, 1 day of premium, camos, and also universal backups from it. One thing you should do is you should actually get all of your nations up to rank 3, so therefore you're able to complete these events. They are really good for focusing on instead of the general grind of the game, and I think that is something that should be prioritized overall. I just want to put a footnote here when it comes to the pages of history stuff, basically because I've seen a lot of people wanting what are classed as Axis people involved in the pages of history profile pictures, and I get the point, because you want sometimes your views to be represented if you are of that ilk, which luckily is a minority, or you just want to see everybody represented because you're naive, and that's fine at the end of the day. The problem is a lot of the world doesn't like fascism, and a lot of the world doesn't like Nazis, and even if you take a look at specific people and you actually delve into them, you realize there is a lot of baggage that those people have, which would cause a lot of issues when it comes to Italian generals or Italian high command, same with Germany, same with Japan, and war crimes and also other things that they're accused of. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through a little example here, just to kind of give you an idea of what's going on. And of course, we're going to talk about Erwin Rommel. Now, Erwin Rommel, in general media, is kind of fantasized, I suppose is a way to put it, as this masterful general that was able to conquer everything, even though he lost the vast majority of his battles that he fought. He was a good tactician. He was overall a decent soldier. One of the issues that he ran into was obviously supply shortages and other things. But we're not here to talk about his actual achievements in that regard. They've been talked about many times, the good old Desert Fox. The thing I want to talk about with Erwin Rommel, let's say 1 month he becomes a profile picture, Erwin Rommel was part of the Nazi Party. He accepted the new regime in the 30s, even though a bunch of historians differ when it comes to the motivations of Rommel. The fact was he was part of the Nazi Party, and it is generally seen that he was supportive of Hitler until near the end of the war, where he questioned his decisions. But it's not just that, right? So it's not just that. It's the fact that there is a bunch of other things around Erwin Rommel. First of all, executing prisoners. There is a ongoing, not really debate, because he did execute prisoners in France when the Bastard France was going on. The question is, was it justified to kill the prisoners? So that's the debate around him. So he murdered prisoners of war. That in France, that happened. So very sad to see that, and also people did it under his command. And then if you want to talk about who's in charge and who actually pushes forward that stuff, guess what? That's Rommel. So unfortunately, that went on. Supposedly, he murdered over 50 surrendering French units, or surrendering French soldiers, I should say. There's also the issue of the treatment with the Jewish people, mainly in North Africa. So, in North Africa, obviously you had the Afrika Corps. These were led by Rommel. They were sent to Libya and generally to deport all of the Jews to concentration camps, because obviously that was the policy. And as we talked about, Rommel was a member of the party and followed the party's line and followed the party's rules. Therefore, he was illicit in a lot of different things which would be classed as war crimes. But he died in 1944, so he never had to hold trial for them. The other thing that also went on is he said that none of his soldiers should buy anything from Jewish people. They should not go to Jewish sectors, and he used Jewish people as a slave labor camps, or like slave labor, as slave labor. The other thing he also used them for was if he was worried about mines in certain areas, he would gather up a group of them and make them walk across the area where he thought there were mines. So he would use them to basically be a human version of a mine detector. The other thing is, he obviously stole a lot from the Jewish people, as a lot of the Nazis did over time. So stole a bunch of gold, and also stole a bunch of heirlooms and also collector's items, which were traced back to the Jewish people of the region. So stop telling me that this guy was, stop whitewashing this guy is probably the best thing of putting it. And the problem is, whoever you put forward when it comes to these Axis generals, or when it comes to these Axis soldiers, they're going to have something in their past which is like this because of the ideology. And guess what? It's not accepted nowadays. The closest you're going to get is the last pages of history, where you had the French pilots who actually fought for the Germans for a period, which for some reason was left out of the article when it comes to the pages of history event, which shows you why stuff like that is left out of the articles, because people react negatively to this stuff. And I know there's a small minority of people who think, oh, well, it will be fine because nobody cares about history. A lot of people care about history, especially from people who their families were basically tortured or were basically discriminated against by these certain individuals. So you don't know what the backlash looks like until it actually happens. I hope when it comes to the ideas you can, kind of understand them, and also at the same time, if further clarification is required, I do stream on Twitch, so we can go through some of the ideas that you have and some of the examples that maybe you think do fit a little bit better compared to the ones which I've given. Anyway, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank Forge, Siegebreak, Carrion Crow, Nicholas Richardson, Elove Goat, Pyman, Winter Scientist, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie, B. Young, and also Sem Arslan, Wilkski, Uncle Bean, Derek R., Bareen, Lafouche, and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.